Testing. 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 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hello. 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 Okay. All right. Just hope nobody hugs me. Or the Christ candle. Right here. Now you are. Namaste.
Good morning, beloved of God. Right where you are at this moment, the light of Spirit shines through you. Infinitely loved by God, you are the light of the world. I am Linda, and I welcome you to Unity Spiritual Center of Waco this morning. And if not, please turn cell phones off if they're on. And please stand as you're able and join in our congregational singing.
God in you, God in me, is the love that sets us free. God in you, God in me, is the light we all can be. It's the essence of us all, the whole of humankind. It's the source of all my good, the universal mind. And God in you, God in me, is the truth of who we are. God in you, God in me, is more powerful by far than anything we can think or dream. It's the best that we can be. And so it is, God in you, God in me. God in you, God in me, is the love that sets us free. God in you, God in me, is the light we all can be. It's the essence of us all, the whole of humankind. It's the source of all my good, the universal mind. And God in you, God in me, is the truth of who we are. God in you, God in me, is more powerful by far than anything we can think or dream. It's the best that we can be. And so it is, God in you, God in me. And so it is, God in you, God in me.
Our truth statement of truth, which is on the screen. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life, God, the good omnipotent. We are a beacon of love and light for those who need this spiritual home right now. And let us say together our vision, mission, and our core value for today. Our vision: to awaken an awareness of spirit in our lives through modern application of ancient wisdom. And our mission: raise consciousness, transform lives, heal the planet, one person at a time, beginning with me. And the core value for today is oneness. We are all one in God and experience the interconnectedness of all life. And I will do the daily word for Sunday, March 13th. The word is light. A bird's cheerful song interrupts the quiet of the night. The dark sky grows lighter, and puffy clouds begin to glow with a beautiful shade of pink. Brilliant rays announce the sun's arrival. The sun peaks over the horizon, flooding the new day with light. Light dissolves darkness in my consciousness in a similar way. At a challenging time, my heart responds to the hopeful thought that, too, This too shall pass. Hope grows into faith as my mind opens to divine wisdom that is always mine to claim. Guided by the dawning light of truth, I see the way forward and follow it with confidence. As surely as each new day brings a sunrise, my faith assures me the light of truth will dissolve the darkness of any obstacle I may face. And from the book of John, chapter 1, verse 5, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. And the affirmation I will say, and then we'll all repeat together. The light of truth dissolves all darkness. The light of truth dissolves all darkness.
Linda, for all of that and for reading Daily Word. And of course, when someone reads Daily Word, it always reminds me of our beloved Katie Browson. Katie was the one who loved doing Daily Word and sat right over there in her chair. And so we're going to place her picture up here right now as a reminder. And she has Daily Word in her hand. Am I having a problem with this microphone? And so today we have two very special guests with us. We have Katie's brother Paul and her sister-in-law Anne. And they would like to come forward, and they have a very special gift for us. So I'd like them to come up now and say a few words to you.
Sorry, can't tell you what it means to be here. We should have come a long time ago. You all know every bit as well as Ann and I know the place you occupied in Katie's life. She and our brother Fred, from very early in their lives, knew something was amiss and that their lives would be difficult in ways that probably a lot of people, well, certainly a lot of people deal with, but it always seems to be unique when it's something we encounter individually. And it was hard to really wrap my mind around what they were going through because I wasn't born with what they were born with. And anyway, it was especially gratifying when Katie and Jim moved here to Waco that she discovered unity so early on, because she was losing her husband while they moved to Waco. And yeah, it was a rough time in her life. And she woke up to um, challenges that I will never know, probably, every day of her life. So, to see her face when she would return from a Sunday at Unity, and to meet several of you over the years, it was gratifying as doesn't come close to describing. Anyway, so thank you, all of you. And Ann and I wanted to do something in Katie's name. I grew up in the Quaker faith, and I don't know how much you know about Quakers, but most Quakers don't have a whole lot of money to maintain their facilities. And they have to be very creative, and they do the best they can, and I think that makes them stronger. So we just wanted to we don't pretend to know what you need as a congregation, as a community, so we'll let you decide. But thank you. So this is just a little something from Katie. Thank you all.
Maybe our president would like to come up and accept this gift. Thank you so much.
So,
It's with our deepest gratitude.
well,
And we would exchange this in a second for Katie.
amen to that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
She blessed our life in so many ways. And
Yeah.
I dearly adored her. And
Yeah, and I used to traumatize her our entire childhood. And I will
well, that's what
forever
brothers are
regret
supposed to do.
that. Yeah.
I bet you
Yeah.
got your
Well, in that way, I was a good big brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, she would.
you got
She
yours
would.
back.
Blessings to both of
Thank you.
Thank you so
so
much.
much.
Thank you for being here. And this is a time in our service when we typically meet and greet. Would you all like to get up and greet Paul and Ann and just say hi to one another, handshake or hug, whatever it is. Comfortable.
I so enjoyed seeing Katie every Sunday. It's nice to see you guys sitting back there in Katie's lap.
Do you think we should teach the church how to do this?
Well, I don't know. I don't think I'm sure.
You did good.
Oh my gosh.
You did good.
That's just amazing.
Do you want to, after the meeting,
No,
do you
never.
want to say something, Sam? Is there a note? Maybe read the note.
Well, I got to see you. Not the same. Picture is so nice. It's so nice.
And I mean,
Yeah.
she used to be in that chair. Before,
Oh, yeah. Fortunately, I mean, I was here enough to remember that.
Yes, she did. She's amazing.
I feel like she's here with us right now.
I think she is.
Oh, late night.
Yeah, I just felt her presence so strong.
Well, cat and dog Sunday?
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact.
My dog would love to come.
Well, maybe we'll do a blessing of the pets.
One of them went, the other one wouldn't.
Well, you can be the judge of that. You can share your carriage to my mother. Hi, Doug.
Beat everything this day is over.
So good to see you.
These post-COVID days, you just don't know what to do.
I know. I might just use the podium mic.
Then I used to, until the pandemic, I would worship some days with them.
Yeah, I think that's true.
That should be much
Hello,
better.
Susie.
And we had
Hi,
good
how are you doing, Bernie?
So nice to meet you in person.
Come up to the microphone.
Sure.
Well, I was a little bit remiss in not actually reading the notes, so I'll try to make up for that now. With our profound gratitude and respect for the loving and nurturing community of Unity Church of Waco, where Katie found a home she valued immensely. Her time in your midst was a time of joy. Thanks so much to each of you. And it's rather a breathtaking gift of $25,000. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to turn this over to our treasurer before I run out the door with it.
If you'd like to stand, you may, or you can stay seated for our next congregational song. thank you so much. And we know that the goodness of God is an aspect of us all. Do I need to use the podium mic? Sorry about that. Well, good morning to all of you again. It's such a pleasure to really welcome you back to this church again, Unity Spiritual Center of Waco. Together we affirm and celebrate our unity, our oneness with each other, our oneness with all that is, and our oneness in God. Your presence is essential. For each of us is a unique aspect of the energy that expresses as Unity Spiritual Center right here and right now. And we know that none of us is here by accident or coincidence. We like to remind you each week that Unity is a new thought denomination, and yet new thought is nothing new to the world. It is in reality a synthesis of the greatest minds and hearts, concepts from spirits across the ages, the laws of Moses, the love of Christ, the ethics of Buddha, the morals of Confucius, the 5 pillars of Islam, and the deep spiritual realization of the Hindus all find an exalted place in the philosophy of unity. In unity, we believe that all people are created with sacred worth, regardless of culture, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or creed, anyone out. So let us join together now in prayer. Eternal presence, God of life, light, and love, and all that is, as we gather together this morning, we remember that you are in the midst of our presence. You are the life force that enlivens each of us as we breathe, as we hear and see. We know that these are the gifts of your presence within us. How grateful we are for this understanding that your presence permeates all that is. All that is an expression of your divine presence, your divine love. As we came here this morning, we noticed the bright sunshine and the very beginnings of new life that springs forth as new little animals and trees and flowers. And it's a reminder that the only thing that doesn't change is your presence. You are eternal, you are changeless, and yet you share yourself unconditionally with each of us. And so as we go forward this morning, we hold in our hearts all who have asked for prayer, for healing and health, for prosperity, for comfort, and for support. And we especially hold in our hearts the people who are suffering in Ukraine, seeing them finding a solution that allows them to be in their country, keep their country, and to be the love and spiritual expressions that they are. We also envision the leaders of our country and all countries of the world being inspired by your divine presence within them to come together in a spirit of cooperation and harmony so that there may be peace across our entire planet. For we know that that is your divine will for us, to live in peace and harmony as expressions of the divinity that we are. We remember that when Jesus' disciples said, Lord, how shall we pray? That Jesus said to them, pray like this. And so together we say the Lord's Prayer as translated from the Aramaic, the language that Jesus and his disciples spoke, and that is on the screen. Infinite presence, which is everywhere. Your name is sacred. Your kingdom is come. Your will is throughout the earth, even as it is throughout the universe. You give us our needful bread from day to day, and you forgive our offenses, even as we forgive our offenders. You let us not enter into materialism, but you separate us from error, because yours are the kingdom, the power, the song, and the praise, from all ages, throughout all ages, sealed in faith, trust, and truth. Each of us is the light and love of God, spiritual beings having a human experience. You are God's beloved, and we embrace you today.
I've heard it said that we're small and alone on our path, but my mind is set on a life greater than that, and my heart is open wide. My heart will be open wide. All that's good that flows from above and below. I am that. I am that. All the joy and love that a life can hold. I am that. I am that. All that's good. All that's good. Some say the answers I seek are found on my knees, but I listen inside to the whisper, I'm all that I need. And my heart is open wide. My heart will be open wide. All that's good that flows from above and below. I am that. I am that. All the joy and love that a life can hold. I am
Lucinda is truly amazing, and even more so in person. And we look forward to her being back with us, hopefully next week. So that would be good. You may have noticed that the title for today's message is, Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? In my email to you on Thursday, I wrote, Unity teaches that God is life, love, wisdom, and power. If that's true, then we want to question why it seems that God lets unimaginable tragedies happen in the lives of good people. Is there a satisfactory way to understand that? In all probability, not. But let's examine a few possibilities that could offer us a somewhat reasonable and maybe even somewhat comforting perspective. A couple of weeks ago, I shared with you a message entitled A Life of Prayer. And in that message, it was suggested that we follow the teachings of Jesus and what he said in the book of Mark, chapter 11, verse 24. Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have already received it and it will be yours. We also mentioned we can turn our everyday activities into prayer as gratitude for our lives and the many ways in which each of us is blessed. Unity follows the teachings of Jesus, and we know that our third principle states, we create our life experiences through our thoughts and feelings. Ever notice how people with constantly positive attitudes seem to have a better life experience than those who find something to complain about or be angry about at every turn? Now, we have to be careful here, though, and not engage in what we sometimes call metaphysical malpractice. Sometimes people say, well, what were you thinking that brought that into your life? That's what we call metaphysical malpractice. That's equivalent to blaming the victim, so to speak. It would be like saying it was that person's lack of faith or having a bad attitude and so forth that brought about that situation. But let's be real, folks. Bad things do happen to good people. And how unfair it would be of us to insinuate that somehow it was their own fault. It reminds us of the story of Job in the Bible, whose friends try to convince him that he must have done something terribly wrong. Otherwise, God would not have sent him all of those unbelievable afflictions. A couple of weeks ago, I received a telephone call from a woman who I have known and who's been a friend for almost 50 years. As a matter of fact, when her daughter was married in Columbus, Ohio, a few years ago, she asked me to officiate. However, her email and call were heartrending. The previous day, her sister was hit and killed by a drunk driver. Her sister at that time was with an Afghan woman with whom she was working to learn English and teaching her family to assimilate into the American culture. They were taking a short walk to their cars when a young man who was drunk lost control, smashed into a truck, and that truck then hit both women. Both of them were killed, and the driver was unhurt. My friend told me that her sister devoted her whole life to helping others and was a most caring person whenever there was a need. So as you can imagine, my friend and her sister's whole family were absolutely devastated by that loss. During our call, my friend expressed extreme anger at the person who was responsible for her sister's untimely death. And she was also angry with God She asked me, when there's so many really bad people who continue to live on, why would God let that happen to my sister, who is such an expression of love and caring, such a good person? I couldn't even begin to fathom the depth of her pain and grief, especially since it just seemed like such a needless loss for her sister to be gone. So then we ask, why do bad things happen to good people? Beyond the incident I just related to you, we can witness terrible tragedies occurring to good people related to us, people we know, and people we only know about. And you know, I would love to stand up here and tell you that I have a very clear and concise and comforting reason that will put your mind at ease about people, you know, why bad things happen to good people. I wish I knew the answer. But let's see if we can at least have some sense of understanding, even though our human minds are probably never going to be able to totally find comprehension. Many years ago, I bought a book by a Jewish rabbi, Harold Kushner, entitled Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. And I'm guessing maybe many of you have read that book too. At the time, I really needed it since I was struggling with some issues on my own. Over the years, I bought that book for numerous other people. Rabbi Kushner felt guided to write that book because of a situation that affected his own life most profoundly. Kushner's son, Aaron, was born in 1963 and suffered from a condition called progeria. At age 3, the doctors told his parents that Aaron would never grow much beyond 3 feet in height, would have no hair on his head or body, would look like an old man while he was still a young child, and would die in his early teens. As a parent and a man of God, dedicated his whole life to God, how could he begin to reconcile that horrible situation? The book that I mentioned was published 4 years after Aaron's death at age 14. But Kushner had struggled with this for all of the years that Aaron was alive and after his death. So not only did he grieve himself, but he was reminded, like we are, about the story of Job in the Bible. And yet Kushner knew he himself had not done anything that could possibly have caused God to have inflicted this unfathomable condition on his precious son. So what could he come to believe about what happened and other tragedies that befall people everywhere? I'll share some of what I remember and that resonated from reading that book many years ago. One of Kushner's examples that I found particularly useful was his discussion about gravity. Obviously, gravity is a good thing, something we could not live successfully without on Earth. However, gravity is also indiscriminate. If a man is high up on a ladder and that ladder slips, as a result of gravity, he may fall to his death. We would not curse gravity or blame God for that tragedy, even though we would be very sad about it. Would we have expected God to reach down and intervene to save that man? Of course not. If God could do that and did not, we would see God as unbelievably
cruel? What if God sometimes did do that, but when the same situation happened to someone you loved, God did not do that? How would you reconcile that in your own mind? I once heard people talk about a terrible school bus accident in which most of the children were killed. However, the mother of one child expressed thanks that God had spared her child. In my mind, I thought that was a terribly cruel thing to say. That means that God could have saved all those other children, but chose to let them be killed, yet spared her child. You see where I'm going here? If God could actually intervene in our lives, but does so only for some and not for others, what kind of arbitrary and capricious God would that be? We can also ask the other question, why do good things happen to bad people? Again, if we assume that God intervenes in people's lives, why would God allow that? Another example that Kushner offered in his book relates to genetics. How is it that some children are born with Down syndrome? We know there's an extra chromosome, which is why it's also referred to as trisomy 21. Would we somehow expect God to see and remove that extra chromosome? On the human level, in human bodies, things can go wrong with dreadful consequences. Think of our precious Katie, born with a rare form of muscular dystrophy. She continued to lose more and more of her abilities each year of her life. It would be understandable to want to be angry with God and blame God for letting that happen to Katie. But again, some genetic mix-up caused Katie and her brother Fred to be extremely adversely affected by that genetic fluke. When cancer or other devastating illness strikes, especially when it strikes a baby or a young child, we are so grief-stricken with nowhere to direct our feelings that again we want to question, how could a loving, compassionate God allow such things to happen? Let's consider some other terrible things that occur and devastate people's lives, such as tornadoes, hurricanes, fires, and started by lightning. We could call those things bad things happening to good people, when in reality it's just how nature works, and we call them bad because they affect people. Again, do we ask, why does God let that happen, and blame God for death and destruction? During these past 2 years, the whole world has been ravaged by a virus, resulting in the death of millions of people. Perhaps there are those who think the virus was God's way of punishing humanity for its evil ways. But millions of those people were good, kind, caring people. Then why would they have to die too? And there are those who stop wondering by saying, well, God's ways are mysterious and it's not ours to question. A most incredibly horrible thing has happened in recent weeks. Millions of people in Ukraine have either had to flee their country of Ukraine, or be killed, or continue to risk their lives due to one man who wants what they have. We are deeply saddened and at the same time totally outraged at what is and has been happening to so many innocent men, women, and children. And it continues. And incidentally, Russian soldiers who have no idea of why they are waging war are also being killed due to the whims of their leader. Yet I don't believe what people are asking, why has God let this happen? We realize that the one man who has created this apocalyptic situation has free will just like the rest of us, and has chosen to direct that free will to annihilate good people. All of that based on greed and an inflated ego. I'm guessing this may be an incident where we actually wish that God could intervene and, as it says in the Old Testament, smite the enemy. Well, thus far, we've only posed questions or offered a few plausible explanations in a few instances, such as gravity and genetic anomalies. Not very comforting to us, especially anyone on the receiving end of any of those examples and more. So let's see if we can do any better. Kushner goes on to say in his book that God does not intervene in our lives, but cries with us when something terrible happens to us or to someone we love. When I initially read that book, I had not yet been introduced to unity or unity teachings of our oneness with God. So that idea more or less resonated with me. But then, becoming a unity student, I began to have difficulty with the idea of God crying with us. It seemed that explanation implied that God is remote, separate and apart from us, yet has feelings for us. And actually, that's not a terrible idea and may be comforting to many folks when they think of God being loving and caring when they're hurting. But what if we understand that each of us is actually an expression of God life? That each of us is a living expression of life, love, wisdom, beauty, just as we understand God to be. We recognize ourselves as spiritual beings having a human experience. With that understanding, it is then possible to know that God does cry with us when we are sad because we are of God. And our sadness is felt not only in our physical and emotional being, but in the spiritual part of us that is God life. I'm somewhat comforted by these thoughts, yet it's difficult then to imagine that people who commit evil acts are also spiritual beings. For all we know of them is their very loathsome human acts, and that they use their God-given gifts of free will in ways that are unconscionable. So for perhaps as long as we inhabit these human bodies and witness sad and deplorable things that happen to people, we may still continue to wonder why bad things happen to good people. It's then that we may wish to turn our attention to all of the good things that happen to good people, including ourselves, to recognize the myriad blessings that abound everywhere we look. So as you choose to turn within and experience the presence of God flowing in and through and as you may wish to whisper a prayer of gratitude, knowing that the goodness of God is the essence of all that is. All that which is known to us And all that, from our human perspective, is still unfathomable. So let's take those thoughts now and enter into a time of meditation. So I invite you to become comfortable where you are seated, allowing the chair to support you as a metaphor for the way in which we are always gently and completely supported by the love of God in and through and as each of us. And as you inhale, I invite you to remember that it is the breath of God that infills every cell of your body. And as you turn within to become still and to feel that presence, I invite you to allow my words to be your words. Gentle Spirit, as I turn within and feel your presence, I am filled with awe. How do I understand your presence? I just allow it to be, to know that it is, that I am, and all that I am is of your expression. So much sadness in the world, and yet so much joy, so much beauty, so much goodness. I want to turn my attention often to the good that surrounds me everywhere. To recognize the goodness of being alive, even in the midst of chaos, even in the midst of what is not good from our human perspective. And so now for a few moments, I want to focus my attention on the many ways in which my life is and has been blessed throughout the years. And I do that now in a few moments of silence. And now as we prepare to bring our awareness back to this time and this place, we remember that we can always turn within to experience the presence of God and to look around us at the many ways in which God has blessed each of our lives. And for that, we are grateful. And so it is.
This is a time in our service when we have an opportunity to give back to the work of Spirit and through our offerings and our tithes. We give in love and gratitude for our own prosperity in its many forms, which comes to us through God, our instant, constant, and abundant source. Will the ushers please come forward? Double. I invite you to hold your offerings in your hand as we say our offertory blessing together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all of the good I am and have, all of the good I give and receive, and I am grateful.